Hey, it's Willie here, and I'm doing this impromptu Facebook Live just to vent some, I guess. But I'm venting on the topic that I think has divided America as a nation, and I don't like what I'm seeing, but I think we can pull back together. I'm not about divisiveness. I'm about pulling my country together. So I titled this, race, politics, religion, and nationality because those are all hot buttons. Um, and so I see Chuck just joined me and Rita Ann just joined me, and I appreciate you both joining me. Uh, I just want to share my views. It's and Edisu just joined me. Uh, and Joanne just joined me. It's obvious that I'm black, and so race is an issue in my country. Um, it shouldn't be. I spent 20 years in the military where race we were on the bleeding edge or leading edge of integration. The military realized that you could not separate the blood supply. If some guy is shot on the battlefield, you can't say, "Oh, is this white blood or black blood?" You can't do that. And so what you ask is this AB positive or A or B or O or whatever, and positive or negative. So you gave the person the right type of blood because otherwise they're going to shock. But you all you were concerned about was, is it the right type of blood? And so the military was the first part of American society to integrate, and that was under executive order. And so regardless of how you felt about another race, you learned to deal with it. And as I went into the military, um, well, let me go through my life. I grew up on a dirt road. Didn't even have a name. It was a state road number in North Carolina, where I was on welfare. We lived in a house heated by kerosene, so poor that at times we ran out of kerosene to heat the house in the middle of the winter. And my grandmother would borrow money from her brother to get some heating oil, which was kerosene, put it in the tank. I'd go and light the heat pump, and that's how we heated the house. And there were times when I dressed in front of the electric oven because we're out of heating oil. So I dressed in front of the electric oven, uh, freezing my butt off, and then I walked down a dirt path to the main road in my neighborhood. And there, if I got there early enough, I went into a cousin's house and I watched television because we had no TV, we had no TV, no telephone, no car. If I needed a ride into town, I went to my neighbor's house next door and I paid for gas, and he'd give me a ride into town, and we'd buy groceries once a week. That was my life growing up. So, and everybody on my street, everybody on the dirt road I lived on were relatives. And so when you speak of race, I grew up around all blacks, but they were all cousins. And I went home a couple of years ago, probably about 10, 15 years ago, and my baby brother and my oldest brother and I were all married to Filipino girls. And my one of my cousins says, "You guys don't like white girls, do you? Or black girls, do you?" And I said, "Well, shit, we can't marry our cousins." And it was sort of humorous to me at the time, but I grew up around my cousins, and those are the people I bonded with the most. But they were all black. There was at one time one Native American family moved in on the end of the street. So we said Indian back then, which was politically correct. My mother's father was part Lumbee Indian, so I'm part Native American. So I've got the high cheekbones, but part of that's from just being almost 60 years old. So that is what it is. But this whole divisiveness in America over race and politics and religion and nationality, it's not American, because America is a melting pot, and we are a nation of immigrants, and the only natives here are the Indians or Native Americans. And I guess somewhere back in history they walked across an ice cap or whatever from other places too. So we are all Americans. We need to get over that crap first. I'm watching my language. I'm retired military, and so we used four-letter words all the time. It was how you showed how tough you were, you know. In fact, I remember flying in Desert Storm, and my co-pilot, uh, he's reading a newspaper called the Stars and Stripes, which is the military newspaper that shares the news with what's going on around the world with military stationed overseas. And he's reading this paper, and he says, "Shit, we really kicked those sand niggers' asses last night." And then he looks across his shoulder at me. I was a navigator on the airplane, and he's, "Oh, sorry, sir. I didn't, no offense intended." And I looked at him and I said, son, I fucking write your boss's performance report and I sign off on yours. And if I don't want either of you to get promoted again, I know there's words are dropping in your performance reports where you won't get promoted again. I said, words don't offend me. I said, I know you probably use this language when I'm not on board the airplane. So what? You know, that's not a big deal to me. Not a big deal at all. In fact, we use those same words, the N word and things like that amongst ourselves. And so it's no big deal. So I'm over that, you know. Looking at politics, I grew up in a neighborhood where it was mostly all Democrats, probably. And the pastor at my church was a representative from the 21st Congressional District in North Carolina. He stood in the pulpit and told us who to vote for. And then every election day, cars hired by candidates would go through, pick up people and drive them to the polls. And there were signs all in the cars and everything telling you who to vote for. So we looked upon our religious leaders as more educated than we were. And we looked and we assumed that, you know, them giving us advice was advice we should probably follow. And our, Dr. Joy Joseph Johnson, who's deceased now, was our congressional representative and my pastor, and he told us who to vote for. But he also pushed through a lot of things in Congress and the legislature and made a lot of laws and changed a lot of things that benefited my community. So, you know, I can't put him down for that. We stuck together as a community, but I think things have advanced since then. When I first went into the military, I voted straight Democrat, and then later military officers mostly vote Republican, partly because Republicans are pro-defense, pro-spending a lot of money on the military. So, yeah, I voted, I moved my mic a little. I voted Republican for a while, and today I vote for whoever I think is best for my country. I don't vote along party lines. And so I look at people arguing, you know, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. I don't care. I care what's best for my country, you know. And somewhere I should be able to pull up and look at what you guys are saying to me, but I don't see it. So I probably set this up wrong or something. I think I should be able to see some comments from you guys, but I'll see them later. That's okay. So I've talked race or ethnicity. We're all the same. We want what's best for our family. We want to be respected. And that's true of all races. I've had currently have more white friends than black friends, not because I have anything against blacks, and I'm married to an Asian. So my friends are probably 80% white, 10% black, maybe 10% Asian and other. And that's fine. People are people. What I've learned is that I've been accepted into a lot of groups where I was the only black in the group, but the reason I was accepted was because people saw that I could do things to benefit them, you know. So people care more about what you can do for them or how you can contribute to improving their lives than they care about what color you are. That doesn't matter, or what sex you are. When I first started, there were a lot of women online who used male names because they thought, well, there's cultures where they put down women, and that was true. In certain cultures, if you let people know you were a female, they discounted you for some reason. And I want to acknowledge a few more people. My cousin Joanne, Dean Henry, Terry Wu, Corey Paget, Richard C., Roger Dew, my buddy Paul Myers, whom I used to call on the phone all the time. He talked for hours. My buddy Jeremy, Lauren Falco, Susan Rosier, Darwin, Dennis, Thomas Clifton, Orrin Checkmate Hudson, who uses chess to teach kids about life and about improving life and their positions in life. Orrin is a good person to connect with. That's Orrin, Orrin, Checkmate Hudson, Hudson. Check him out. He cares about our kids, and he's teaching our kids to improve their position in life by through chess, through learning chess and how to play chess. That's very powerful. John Gilvari, Gerald Lacarta, who's a fellow Pinoy. See, I've got Philip Ewing and Adam Seiler, who's a neighbor, and he's hung out with me on the beach here in Florida before. So I appreciate you guys joining me and tuning in. I just did this impromptu, but I wanted to share that we need to end this divisiveness, this crap, So I've talked race and ethnicity. I've talked politics, nationality. I've been to over 60 countries, and people are people. They're no different. They all want to be left alone for the most part. America seems to feel that we need to be the world's police, but at the same time, non-Americans in many countries feel that, okay, you have all this money, you have the majority of the world's wealth, and you have influence, and you have the strongest weapons and all this other stuff. So they go, so we're going to come in and take what you have. I sense that, because I visited a lot of places, and I sense that. So that's the animosity towards America, is that you have and you're not giving, so we're going to take. So we give a lot of our GNP, or our gross domestic product, to other countries. Part of the reason is we want to maintain our status, but another part is because we know if we don't do it, they're probably going to come and try to take it. So it's easier just to give it to them. That's the way it is. The final issue I'll address is religion. I grew up Southern Baptist, and so I was raised in a Southern Baptist church, where I mentioned already that my congressional representative was the pastor in the church. And because he had a doctorate degree and we thought he was already educated, he told us how to vote, and we listened. And he made a real difference in the life of the community. He did. But when I went into the military, most of the military officers were Republican, and I eventually transitioned to Republican. And today I vote for whoever I think is the best candidate. That's politics, not religion. But with religion, grew up Southern Baptist, and I converted to Catholicism at some point along the way, because at the time, 85% of the Philippines was Catholic. And I asked very tough questions. I went through a class called the RCIA class, which is Rights of Christians, something, whatever. But it taught you all about Catholicism. And so I asked priests very tough questions. Like, I said, you guys worship statues and you worship Mary. And the priest says, no, we don't worship statues or Mary. We venerate the saints and Mary. And he said, one of them said to me, he said, in fact, if the story of Mary being a virgin mother is not true, then all of Christianity is a lie. He said, so that's the whole religion hinges upon Mary and the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of the universe, being sent down by God to cause her to be with child. So that's what all of Christianity hinges upon. So he pointed that out to me, and I asked about other questions too. And as I was going through this class, Catholics tend to say prayers that are memorized, and in church they read the prayers off the thing, whereas Protestants, they talk, they speak their spirit. So it's not reading something that's prepared. And so one of the priests, he asked me, he said, so how do you pray? And I said, I ask God for knowledge of his will and the ability to carry that out. And everyone in the room sat up and go, whoa, but that's true. And excuse me for a moment. Yeah. We go through lows in the 40s to lows in the 70s here this time of the year. And so right now we're in the 70s. 2 days ago, we were in the 40s. And so there's a crud going around, and I cough a little. That's okay. Uh, one of the things I want to encourage you guys to do, the ones who are online marketers, is I want you to do some Facebook Lives. One of the things I dealt with in my early days was just putting myself out there. Uh, there was this Polish lady named Wanda Lascott who she approached me and she spoke her mind. I was a part of her group. She had a discussion forum, and she said, "Well, you need to put your face out there." And I go, I don't know about that. She said, "There are people who are going to connect with you, and those people are your audience." She said, "There are other people who won't like you for whatever reason, your color, your age, your sex, whatever. It doesn't matter. You connect with your audience. You can't please everyone. If you try to please everyone, it's a losing proposition." And I'll go back to religion. When I look at religion now, I've traveled to over 60 different countries. Uh, I know Christianity. I have friends who are Jewish. I have friends who are Muslim. I have friends who are Hindu. Jainism. I understand probably 50 different religions. I'm an honorary LDS, a Mormon. There's a group on Facebook that's an LDS group, and they added me to the group, and I'm like, somebody said, "Is Willie Mormon?" I'm like, "No." And in fact, the blacks weren't allowed to join the Mormon church for a while, I know, but they maintain the most comprehensive database in the country. If you're into researching your heritage and things like that. So, but they added me to the group. So I'm a Mormon. I visited the Mormon temple first in Hawaii on Oahu. And then I visited the Mormon temple there in, I can't remember what's Ogden or Salt Lake City. I watched the Mormon Tabernacle Choir practicing. I've read the Book of Mormons. So I ask a question that some people will go, "Whoa, you're out there." I said, if you believe in an all-powerful God, then why can't all religions be right? If you believe in an all-powerful God, why can't all religions be right? We live in a multi-dimensional universe, and that's a question I want to, I guess, leave you guys with is, why can't we all be right? And we don't need to kill each other over it. My religion, my God never came to me and said, what you believe is right and what they believe is wrong, and never has. I do feel a spirit of the universe talking to me from time to time and telling me what to do and guiding me. Every culture in the world that I've studied believes in a spirit of the universe, or a great spirit. You watch American Westerns and they portray the Indians as talking about the great spirit. That's not too far off. The African pygmies have the term umkulo ula. See, I speak 19 languages. I'm learning my 20th right now. But I don't speak pygmy. I just know umkulo ula. But that means spirit of the universe, a great spirit. So I believe that we are all bounded together by the spirit of the universe. And I believe that we need to, quite frankly, stop this shit of just bashing each other, I don't post about race, politics, religion, a lot of things on social media, because you don't change anybody's mind. Politics, if somebody's already convinced they're going to vote Republican or Democrat or whatever, you don't change their mind. Maybe you change the minds of the people who haven't decided how they're going to vote yet, but it's a losing argument to just try to get an intelligent discussion going with other people. But there are people who are willing to do an intelligent discussion, and those people I embrace. I'm willing to talk to anyone, and I put myself out there. Like I'm putting myself out here now. I've got all these people watching me, sitting in front of the camera. I got these bright lights. They're going, "Gee, he's older than I thought he was." Well, I turned 60 next year, so I'm pleased to be alive. I had two brothers that died at age 45, but one was about 18 months in front of me and one was 18 months behind me, and they both died at age 45. And so, I've outlived them both by 15 years or so. And so I feel blessed. And so I'll put myself out there. Uh, I invite you actually to do two things. One is I have a Facebook page at facebook.com/, what is it? Willie Crawford Marketing Tips. There's no punctuation there, so it's Willie Crawford Marketing Tips. And I invite you to visit that page because that's where I broadcast every day a live stream. And but it's about marketing. It's about teaching people to build a business. And every day at 10 o'clock Central, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, and you can do the time zone conversions around the world if you want to. But I put myself out there, and I'm very frank with you. You know, I look at the fact that, okay, so I'm almost 60 years old. Uh, I spent 20 years in the military protecting American society and our allies. And I had a top secret clearance. So I did a lot of things that I can never mention, and that's fine. And I see that Paul Fishkind and Paul Guyon and Sherry Thompson have joined us, and Michael's joined us, Dennis has joined us. You know, so these. And my point there is these broadcasts work, and it's free. So as far as building your business is concerned, uh, people need to know who you are. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And so I'm willing to be totally transparent. But I was leading towards that point earlier is, okay, I spent 20 years protecting you, especially if you're an American citizen, as a soldier. And so why would I turn around now and screw you, you know? Okay, I risked my life. I flew around in a C-130, which is an unarmed C-130. And our only protection was to use the terrain to stay out of reach of enemy artillery or ground fire or anti-aircraft missiles. And so I knew the range of, well, before I took off, I went to the intelligence shop, got a briefing, and they told me of known enemy positions. And so I marked this on my map. It's like, okay, we know there's a ZSU-23-4, which is a quad 4 gun to go, and it shoots you out of the sky, chews up a C-130 at about 25 miles. And so you knew there was one here. You flew around it. You dropped down into the terrain, into the mountains or whatever, and surface air missiles, those things can reach up to ridiculous altitudes. So we hugged the terrain there too. And you flew over an enemy camp, or what do you call it, encampment. You knew that even if they had small arms, they could take it and shoot a plane down out of the air if you flew too close to them. But my fighter friends, they all laugh because they go, we flew so fast that by the time they saw us, we were out of there. I have a friend, Paul Giron, who flew, what did he fly? I think he flew aardvarks. And so, you know, he's like, but by the time they saw us, we were out of there, you know, and that's true. But I flew at, I don't know, between 300 and 500 miles per hour, whereas they flew at near the speed of sound. And so I was vulnerable, and that affected my psyche. It affects my psyche still. And I'm rambling now, but it does affect my psyche. But it had advantages, you see, because I learned to take risk. I learned to make decisions in the absence of perfect information. I learned to take responsibility for my decisions. You know, I briefed or stood in front of audiences of, I don't know, 300 aircrew members and told them what the mission was. And I stood in front of politicians and diplomats and foreign diplomats. And I learned that, you know, that one of the biggest fears of most people is to get on stage in front of an audience. You know, I've been taught or heard that a lot of people fear that more than death. Well, I don't. I have no problem with getting in front of an audience. Right now, I've got close to 5,000 Facebook friends, and I have, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 followers who aren't necessarily friends, because you can only have 5,000 friends. And I have no problem with turning on my studio lights, and I have these big lights with umbrellas that direct the light towards me. I need to get them better situated. But I have a problem with, you know, getting out there and getting in front of an audience. With that, again, I'm going to ask you to join me tomorrow on Facebook at facebook.com/Willie Crawford Marketing Tips. And that's at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'll focus on marketing. Today I focused on I guess something I thought was controversial. Maybe it's not, but it's what is dividing us as a nation. We can't do this shit, you know. We have to get back together. So race shouldn't separate us. Ethnicity shouldn't separate us. Your nationality, where you came from, shouldn't separate us. If we're all Americans, uh, politics, the Democrats and Republicans, who are the major parties, they hang out in the same country clubs. They use politics to distract you from important issues, and uh, they use politics to make you feel that they're on in your corner because, again, uh, one of the techniques for influencing people is to help them throw rocks at their perceived enemies. So that's how that works. And as far as religion is concerned, um, I believe that in a higher power, and what you choose to call it higher power is your decision. My grandmother raised me Christian, so I have the beliefs that she gave me. But if I had grown up in a different culture, I would probably think differently. So I don't put down anyone else's religions. With that, I'm going to go. I'll ask you to share this because I want to send this viral. I hope to make it shorter, but I want it to be slightly controversial too, so that it was share worthy. So thanks for listening. I really appreciate you guys. I see my cousin Michael Page just joined me, and Milana, whom I met through Wanda Loscott I years ago. I appreciate you joining me, Sherry Thompson, and so thank you all. And I'm out of here.